Hey everyone, it's Short Fiction Friday. This week I read 3 short stories: Hidden by Stuart Kaminsky, Twilight at the Towers by Clive Barker, and Game by Donald Barthelme. Let's start with Hidden by Stuart Kaminsky. The basic setup here is that an entire family has been brutally murdered, the Wainwright family. And to begin with, the main suspect is Paul Wainwright, who's like the teenage son of the family. The story follows Paul Wainwright, like first-person perspective. We see him enacting his plan. His getaway plan is to hide in the attic. And it's actually quite an elaborate plan. He's got false ceiling and false walls to hide himself in a little space in the attic. He's been stockpiling food. He's obviously been thinking about this quite a bit. And as the plot progresses, you get a few sort of turns in the story. Is his plan successful? And are these murders exactly what they seem? You get a little bit more information about these things. This was more in the crime thriller kind of genre, but it does get into some of the gory details. I thought this one was pretty good. The next short story I read was Twilight at the Towers by Clive Barker. This was first published in 1985 in Books of Blood 6. And this is essentially a Cold War spy thriller, except you have the extra element of werewolves. So our main character here, Ballard, it doesn't say what organization he works for, but presumably it's MI6. Ballard is assigned to go meet up with this Russian guy, Mironenko. He's a KGB spy, but he's currently thinking of defecting. Of course, in this spy game, there's a lot of suspicion around this man. You know, is he really going to defect? Or is this more of a trick? Ballard thinks Mironenko's on the level, and Ballard's superior, Cripps, he thinks the same thing. Ballard and Cripps themselves now fall under some suspicion. They're being kind of marginalized within MI6. All this, plus you have to try to work out who is the werewolf, right? There's werewolf killings going on as well. So this was good. This was a fun story. I found the writing style a lot more flowery than the other Clive Barker I've read. It came off in places a little bit awkward. Plus, this is a much more complicated story, right? You don't know who you can trust. There's a lot of moving pieces in this short story. So that, plus the sometimes awkward prose, led to this being not such a great Clive Barker story. Now, when I say that, I'm only saying it in comparison to Body Politic, which I loved. That was a great short story. Straightforward, simple. It really went for the throat. Twilight at the Towers was still good, but I did have slight reservations about it. Okay, last short story that I read this week was Game by Donald Barthelme. This was first published in the New Yorker, July 31st, 1965. This is a very short story, only 6 pages. We have 2 characters here, and they're in charge of a weapons system. And basically they've been locked together in some sort of underground bunker, and over time they've gone insane. There's our unnamed first-person protagonist. He's lost his mind. He's writing on the walls. And there's another guy down there as well, Shotwell, who's also gone insane. He plays jacks all day. Neither of them trust each other. They've both got guns. They haven't fired, but you can tell that maybe they will. They were supposed to be relieved of their duty weeks or months ago, but they've just been left in this bunker, locked in there, for months on end. And of course, part of the question is, well, why have they been locked down there? Is this some sort of cruel test on the part of the government? Has there been a nuclear war? Maybe everyone else is dead. Maybe this is all just a big mistake and they've been forgotten. So we don't get any answers for this kind of thing. The story's left quite ambiguous. I would have liked it if the author did make it just slightly more pointed. It's a little bit difficult to know what the exact point of this one was. And there's been a few stories like that in this anthology. I mean, obviously it's the author's choice. If he wants to keep things a little bit vague, that's fine. But me personally, I would have liked just a couple more details. But otherwise, this is a quick, fun read, well written and everything. So overall, it's a good story, and it's only 6 pages. So you're definitely not wasting your time. All right, and ranking these short stories, possibly putting them onto my top 20 here, my big list of short stories. This week, none of the short stories are going to make the list. The Clive Barker one was probably the best that I read this week, but it's not making the top 20. Top 20 is pretty brutal, pretty cutthroat. All right, let's pick some new short stories for next week. So that Clive Barker story was the last one in the werewolf book. I'm done with that book now. I'm going to change the numbering system. We'll make this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The 6-sided die will select the book. The 12-sided die will select the story within the book. Okay, first roll. Two and 11. That's the war book. The stories with pencil marks next to them, I've already read those. So you can see that there's not 11 stories left in this book. Therefore, I'll pick the last story, Or Else, by Henry Kuttner. And that's 10 pages. I'm going to keep on rolling the dice until I get to at least 50 pages. Second roll. 5 and 8. That's Dark Love. So there's not 8 stories left in here. There's only 5. So I'm just going to pick the last one. And over the page, the last one is Ed Gorman, The End of It All. That is 36 pages, which takes us to a total of 46 pages so far. Okay, third roll. 1 and 8. So we'll read the second last story there. The Weapon by Frederick Brown. That's 4 pages, which gets us to exactly the 50-page minimum. All right, I'll put the selected short stories up on the screen here. I'm looking forward to all 3 of these stories. I haven't read anything by these authors before. Go read these short stories if you have access to them, and I'll see you all next week. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.